People of God, today we anchor our faith in Psalm 37 and we silence the noise of comparison, impatience, and fear. This word reminds us that God is not overlooking your obedience, delaying your reward, or ignoring your consistency. Faithfulness is never wasted in the kingdom. What you have done in private, God is preparing to honor openly. Hear this clearly. Waiting does not mean forgotten, and consistency does not mean stagnant. Psalm 37 declares that those who trust in the Lord delight in Him and commit their way to Him will see results that cannot be denied. God rewards faithfulness with stability, provision, and favor that endures. You are not behind, you are being prepared. This is a moment to release frustration and reclaim peace. Stop measuring your progress by someone else's timeline. God's reward system is precise, intentional, and perfectly timed. He is establishing you so that when increase comes, it brings rest instead of pressure, joy instead of anxiety, and peace instead of striving. If this declaration is strengthening your faith, engage with it right now. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for daily prayer and faith-filled declarations that keep you aligned and encouraged. Write amen in the comments as a declaration that God is rewarding your faithfulness, and also comment one thing you're believing God for today, because agreement activates expectation. Now step forward with confidence and calm assurance. Continue to trust, continue to obey, and continue to do good. God is watching, God is working, and God is faithful to reward those who remain faithful to Him. Your diligence is speaking, your obedience is counting, and your reward is unfolding. When Scripture declares that God sees and rewards consistent faithfulness, it speaks to a divine reality that operates beyond human timelines and visible validation. Faithfulness is not loud. It does not announce itself. It often unfolds quietly in ordinary obedience, unseen decisions, and daily consistency that no one applauds. Yet God's attention is never distracted. What feels unnoticed to people is carefully recorded by Him. Faithfulness is never invisible in heaven. Faithfulness is not about intensity, it is about continuity. Many can be faithful for a moment, but God honors those who remain steady through seasons. Consistency reveals trust. Trust shows maturity. Maturity prepares a person to receive reward without being overwhelmed by it. God does not rush rewards because He values sustainability over speed. When you remain faithful, even when progress seems slow, you are declaring that your obedience is not transactional. You are not serving God only for immediate results. You are serving because He is trustworthy. This posture matters deeply. God rewards faithfulness not merely with provision, but with peace, stability, and longevity. Faithfulness is often tested in waiting. Waiting exposes motives. It reveals whether obedience is rooted in faith or frustration. Those who remain faithful while waiting demonstrate confidence in God's character rather than in outcomes. God responds to this confidence with assurance and eventual reward. God sees faithfulness in small decisions. Faithfulness shows up in integrity when compromise would be easier, in discipline when distraction is tempting, and in patience when urgency pressures you to rush. These moments may seem insignificant, but they accumulate. Accumulated faithfulness builds spiritual weight that attracts divine response. Faithfulness also refines character. Character is what remains when circumstances change. God rewards faithfulness because it produces people who can steward blessing wisely. Reward without character often becomes a burden. Character formed through faithfulness ensures that reward becomes a blessing. God's reward system does not mirror human systems. Humans reward visibility. God rewards consistency. Humans applaud performance. God honors perseverance. When you understand this, comparison loses power. You are no longer distracted by who is ahead or behind. You remain focused on obedience. Faithfulness protects peace. When you are faithful, you do not live in anxiety over results. You trust that God's timing is intentional. This trust calms the heart. A calm heart hears God clearly. Clear hearing sustains obedience. God sees faithfulness in routine. Routine obedience is often overlooked because it lacks drama. But routine builds rhythm. Rhythm sustains growth. God rewards those who remain steady in rhythm rather than sporadic in effort. Faithfulness also shapes identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who can be trusted. This self-perception strengthens confidence. Confidence rooted in obedience is stable. God often rewards faithfulness by increasing responsibility, not just resources. God sees faithfulness even when outcomes are delayed. Delay does not diminish value. Delay often deepens capacity. God rewards faithfulness when the timing aligns with your readiness, not just your desire. Faithfulness is evidence of trust in God's sovereignty. You continue doing good even when circumstances challenge your faith. This unwavering posture honors God. God honors those who honor Him. Faithfulness also influences future favor. What you do today prepares doors you will walk through tomorrow. God rewards faithfulness by opening opportunities that require trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is the currency of advancement. God sees faithfulness in restraint. Sometimes faithfulness means waiting rather than acting. Waiting requires strength. God rewards those who resist pressure to move prematurely. Faithfulness guards integrity. Integrity sustains favor. Favor opens doors. God rewards faithfulness by surrounding you with favor that protects and advances you. Faithfulness also stabilizes emotions. Emotional consistency supports wise decision-making. God rewards faithfulness by increasing clarity and discernment. God sees faithfulness in obedience that costs you comfort. Sacrificial obedience reveals sincerity. God responds to sincerity with reward. Faithfulness teaches patience. Patience prepares you to carry reward without fear. God values patience because impatience often mishandles blessing. God sees faithfulness when you remain obedient without affirmation. This independence from validation strengthens humility. Humility preserves reward. Faithfulness aligns you with God's timing. Timing protects purpose. God rewards faithfulness by aligning events in ways that cannot be manipulated. God sees faithfulness as loyalty. Loyalty builds trust. Trust invites partnership. God rewards faithfulness by involving you more deeply in his plans. Faithfulness also protects hope. Hope remains alive when faithfulness continues. God rewards hope-filled obedience. God sees faithfulness in perseverance. Perseverance strengthens endurance. Endurance produces maturity. Maturity sustains blessing. Faithfulness shapes legacy. Legacy is built over time. God rewards faithfulness with impact that extends beyond your lifetime. God sees faithfulness even when results appear small. Small beginnings often lead to lasting outcomes. God rewards faithfulness by multiplying what was planted patiently. Faithfulness also guards against burnout. You are not striving for approval. You are walking in alignment. Alignment restores energy. God rewards faithfulness with renewal. God sees faithfulness in trust during uncertainty. Trust keeps you anchored. Anchored people do not drift. God rewards anchored lives with stability. Faithfulness cultivates gratitude. Gratitude keeps the heart soft. A soft heart receives reward with humility. God sees faithfulness as obedience sustained over time. Time tests sincerity. Sincere obedience is always rewarded. Faithfulness does not rush reward, it attracts it. Reward comes when the foundation can support it. God sees faithfulness as partnership. Partnership requires reliability. God rewards reliability. Faithfulness remains when enthusiasm fades. God honors what remains. Faithfulness continues when emotions fluctuate. God rewards what endures. Faithfulness does not quit when results delay. God responds to perseverance. Faithfulness is quiet strength. God honors quiet strength. Faithfulness is obedience without applause. God applauds it. Faithfulness is trust lived daily. God rewards lived trust. Faithfulness is faith expressed consistently. God responds consistently. Faithfulness builds spiritual credibility. Credibility attracts responsibility. God sees every act of faithfulness. None are wasted. None are overlooked. None are forgotten. Faithfulness may feel unseen, but it is never unrewarded. God's rewards may not always look like what you expect, but they always align with what you need. Faithfulness positions you for peace before provision. Faithfulness secures reward without regret. Faithfulness prepares you to receive without fear. God sees and rewards consistent faithfulness because it reflects his own nature. Faithful, unchanging, dependable, and he delights in entrusting greater responsibility, deeper peace, lasting provision, and enduring favor to those who remain steady, obedient, patient, and trusting across seasons, knowing that what is built through faithfulness will last, mature, and produce fruit that endures long after the waiting has passed and the reward has arrived. When trusting God's timing brings peace and stability, it reshapes the way you experience every season of your life. Timing is not simply about when something happens, it is about when something can be sustained. God's timing is never random, never careless, and never delayed without intention. Trusting his timing is an act of surrender that quiets anxiety and establishes stability where uncertainty once ruled. Impatience often comes from the illusion that delay equals denial, but God's timing operates from wisdom, not urgency. He sees what you cannot see, understands what you cannot yet understand, and prepares what you cannot yet handle. When you trust his timing, you release the pressure to force outcomes. That release is where peace begins. Peace is not the absence of desire, it is the absence of fear. You can desire growth, breakthrough, and reward without being tormented by when they will come. Trusting God's timing allows desire to coexist with rest. Rest strengthens discernment. Discernment protects decisions. Protected decisions produce stability. Stability is built when you stop reacting to what you see and start resting in what God has promised. Reaction creates instability because it shifts with circumstances. Trust creates stability because it anchors you to God's character. God does not change. His faithfulness is consistent. When your trust is anchored in Him, your emotions no longer rise and fall with every delay or development. Trusting God's timing also guards your heart from comparison. Comparison creates unrest because it places your peace in someone else's progress. God's timing is personal. What is right for one person may not be right for you. When you trust His timing, you stop measuring your life against others and start measuring it against obedience. Obedience produces peace because it aligns you with God rather than with pressure. Peace grows when you understand that delay often protects you. Many things you ask for too early would overwhelm you if they arrived now. God's timing ensures that when something comes, it does not come as a burden. Stability requires capacity. Capacity is developed in waiting. Waiting is not wasted time, it is formative time. Trusting God's timing also stabilizes your identity. When your sense of worth is tied to outcomes, delays feel like rejection. But when your identity is rooted in God, waiting does not threaten who you are. You remain secure regardless of timing. Security strengthens patience. Patience sustains peace. God's timing often works beneath the surface. While you wait, He is aligning people, preparing resources, shaping character, and positioning circumstances. Trusting His timing keeps you from interfering with what He is orchestrating. Interference often delays what impatience is trying to hurry. Trust allows God to complete His work without resistance. Peace is the fruit of trust. When you trust God's timing, you stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios. Anxiety thrives on imagined futures. Trust anchors you in the present. Presence brings clarity. Clarity strengthens stability. Stability also comes from consistency. Trusting God's timing encourages you to remain consistent rather than reactive. You continue to do good, remain faithful, and walk uprightly even when progress feels slow. Consistency builds strength. Strength sustains peace. Trusting God's timing teaches humility. Humility acknowledges that God knows better than you do. This acknowledgement removes the burden of control. Control exhausts the soul. Trust restores it. A restored soul is steady. Peace grows when you realize that God is never late. He is precise. Precision ensures that what arrives does so with grace. Grace removes strain. Strain destabilizes. Grace stabilizes. Trusting God's timing also protects relationships. Impatience often spills into frustration that affects how you treat others. When you trust God, you are less irritable, less defensive, and more gracious. Healthy relationships contribute to stability in every area of life. Stability is also financial, emotional, and spiritual. Trusting God's timing prevents reckless decisions made out of desperation. Desperation seeks shortcuts. Shortcuts create instability. Trust chooses wisdom. Wisdom builds lasting foundations. Peace deepens when you stop interpreting silence as absence. God is often most active when He seems quiet. Trust allows you to remain calm even when you do not hear immediate answers. Calm preserves clarity. Trusting God's timing aligns you with process. Process matures you. Maturity allows you to handle reward without fear. God's rewards come with responsibility. Responsibility requires stability. Stability is formed in waiting. Peace grows when you remember past faithfulness. Reflection strengthens trust. Trust reduces fear. Reduced fear stabilizes the heart. Trusting God's timing also guards against burnout. Burnout comes from striving against time. When you trust God, you stop racing. You move at the pace of grace. Grace restores energy. Stability is reinforced when you trust God in uncertainty. Uncertainty does not have to create panic. Panic arises when trust is absent. Trust anchors you even when details are unclear. Trusting God's timing teaches you to live fully in the present. You stop postponing joy until something happens. Joy strengthens resilience. Resilience supports stability. Peace increases when you surrender deadlines to God. Deadlines can motivate, but they can also enslave. Trust frees you from the tyranny of self-imposed timelines. Trusting God's timing also protects hope. Hope deferred can make the heart weary, but hope anchored in God remains alive. Living hope sustains peace. Stability grows when you learn to wait without complaining. Complaining magnifies frustration. Gratitude magnifies trust. Gratitude stabilizes perspective. Trusting God's timing strengthens obedience. You obey without needing immediate confirmation. This obedience deepens relationship with God. Relationship fosters peace. Peace also comes from knowing that God's timing is purposeful. Nothing arrives late or early by accident. Everything aligns with His wisdom. Wisdom brings rest. Stability is reinforced when you accept that some seasons are for preparation, not manifestation. Preparation protects you. Trust allows preparation to complete its work. Trusting God's timing changes how you interpret setbacks. Setbacks are not failures, they are adjustments. Adjustments refine direction. Refined direction stabilizes movement. Peace grows when you stop negotiating with God about timing. Negotiation creates tension. Surrender releases it. Trusting God's timing helps you remain faithful without resentment. Resentment disrupts peace. Faithfulness nurtures it. Stability is strengthened when you trust God with both beginnings and endings. Transitions are less threatening when you trust the one guiding them. Trusting God's timing cultivates contentment. Contentment does not eliminate ambition, it steadies it. Steady ambition is sustainable. Peace increases when you stop watching the clock and start watching God. Watching God builds faith. Faith stabilizes life. Trusting God's timing also sharpens discernment. Discernment prevents premature decisions. Prevention protects stability. Stability grows when you trust God even when progress feels invisible. Invisible growth is still growth. Trust honors unseen work. Peace settles when you accept that God's timing includes rest. Rest is not delay, it is provision for strength. Trusting God's timing protects your heart from disappointment. Disappointment often comes from unmet expectations. Trust aligns expectations with God's wisdom. Stability becomes a natural outcome of trust. When trust is firm, emotions steady. When emotions steady, decisions improve. When decisions improve, life stabilizes. Trusting God's timing does not mean passivity. It means active faith paired with patience. This balance preserves peace. Peace grows as you release the need to understand everything. Understanding follows obedience. Trust comes first. Stability is reinforced when you trust that God's timing is redemptive. Even delays are working for your good. Trusting God's timing invites rest without regret. Rest without regret is a gift. Peace remains when you trust that what God promised will come at the right time, in the right way, with the right support. Trusting God's timing transforms waiting into worship. Worship calms the soul. Stability flows from a heart that trusts God more than the calendar. Trust anchors you. Peace settles you. Stability sustains you. God's timing holds you, and in trusting His timing, your life becomes ordered, calm, and secure, grounded in the assurance that nothing meant for you will miss you, nothing premature will overwhelm you, and nothing delayed will deny you, as peace replaces pressure. Patience strengthens faith, and stability grows quietly from a heart fully surrendered to the wisdom and faithfulness of God. When obedience positions you for lasting provision, it reveals that God's rewards are not fragile or temporary, but established and secure. Provision that lasts is not built on moments of excitement or emotional decisions. It is built on steady obedience that aligns your life with God's order. Obedience is the bridge between promise and manifestation. It is the daily choice to trust God's instruction even when results are not immediate, visible, or convenient. Obedience is not about perfection. It is about consistency. God does not require flawless performance, but He honors faithful alignment. When you obey consistently, you create an environment where provision can remain without being consumed by chaos. Many experience temporary increase, but lack lasting provision because obedience was seasonal rather than sustained. God's desire is not to bless you briefly, but to establish you securely. Lasting provision requires structure. Obedience brings structure to finances, decisions, habits, and priorities. Structure protects resources from being drained by impulse, fear, or distraction. When structure is absent, even abundance can disappear quickly. Obedience introduces order, and order sustains increase. Obedience also aligns you with God's wisdom. Wisdom sees beyond the moment. It considers consequences, timing, and sustainability. God's instructions are never random. They are designed to protect you from outcomes you cannot yet see. When you obey, you benefit from foresight that is greater than your own understanding. Lasting provision flows where obedience removes haste. Haste creates mistakes. Mistakes create loss. Obedience slows the pace enough for discernment to operate. Discernment prevents unnecessary loss. Prevention is a form of provision. Obedience positions you to hear God clearly. Clear hearing leads to clear direction. Clear direction reduces confusion. Confusion drains resources. Clarity preserves them. God often protects provision by guiding you away from decisions that appear profitable but would ultimately cost peace. Obedience also guards integrity. Integrity is essential for lasting provision because compromise undermines stability. What is gained through compromise rarely remains. God protects provision by requiring integrity. Integrity sustains favor, favor sustains provision. Lasting provision requires patience. Patience develops through obedience in waiting. Waiting refines motives. It reveals whether obedience is rooted in trust or expectation of reward. God rewards trust-driven obedience with provision that does not collapse under pressure. Obedience teaches stewardship. Stewardship is the skill of managing what God entrusts to you. God increases what is stewarded wisely. Stewardship formed through obedience ensures that provision grows rather than shrinks. Growth that is obedient is sustainable. Obedience also brings peace. Peace is a stabilizer. When peace governs decisions, emotional reactions do not sabotage progress. Emotional spending, rushed commitments, and fear-driven choices are reduced when obedience anchors the heart. Peace preserves provision. Lasting provision is protected by boundaries. Obedience establishes boundaries that prevent excess, waste, and misuse. Boundaries ensure that resources serve purpose rather than impulse. God entrusts more to those who respect boundaries. Obedience aligns finances with purpose. Purpose gives direction to provision. Provision without purpose becomes distraction. Distraction drains focus. Focus preserves growth. Obedience keeps purpose central. Obedience also strengthens discipline. Discipline sustains consistency. Consistency builds reliability. Reliability attracts opportunity. Opportunity leads to increase that can be sustained. Lasting provision is often quiet. It does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it shows up as stability, debt reduction, consistent income, or peace of mind. Obedience teaches you to value stability as much as abundance. Stability is a blessing. Obedience protects you from shortcuts. Shortcuts promise speed but deliver instability. God's path may feel slower, but it is secure. Security is essential for lasting provision. Obedience also refines desire. Desire aligned with God's will produces satisfaction. Misaligned desire creates restlessness. Restlessness leads to poor decisions. Obedience brings contentment, and contentment protects provision. Lasting provision requires trust. Trust grows through obedience. Each act of obedience reinforces confidence in God's guidance. Confidence reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves decision-making. Better decisions preserve resources. Obedience also invites God's involvement. When you follow His instruction, He remains actively engaged in directing your steps. Divine involvement ensures provision is not left to chance. Obedience positions you to receive correction. Correction prevents loss. Those who resist correction often repeat mistakes. Obedience keeps you teachable. Teachable people grow sustainably. Lasting provision requires humility. Humility acknowledges dependence on God. Dependence keeps pride from distorting judgment. Pride undermines provision. Obedience preserves humility. Obedience also strengthens foresight. God often warns before loss occurs. Those who obey early avoid damage. Avoidance of damage is a form of provision. Lasting provision supports peace in relationships. Financial strain often damages relationships. Obedience promotes fairness, honesty, and restraint. Healthy relationships support stability. Obedience aligns you with God's timing. Timing protects provision from arriving too early or too late. God's timing ensures readiness. Lasting provision grows where obedience eliminates comparison. Comparison leads to reckless pursuit. Recklessness drains resources. Obedience grounds contentment. Obedience shapes habits. Habits determine outcomes. Habits formed in obedience sustain growth. Lasting provision also depends on gratitude. Gratitude acknowledges God as the source. Gratitude keeps the heart soft. A soft heart remains teachable. Obedience protects provision from being driven by fear. Fear-based decisions create instability. Obedience restores trust. Lasting provision requires consistency in small things. God watches how you handle little before entrusting much. Obedience in small matters prepares you for greater responsibility. Obedience also aligns finances with faith. Faith sustains patience. Patience preserves stability. Lasting provision flows where obedience removes resentment. Resentment poisons perspective. Obedience restores peace. Obedience creates margin. Margin provides flexibility. Flexibility prevents collapse under pressure. Lasting provision also supports generosity. Generosity guided by obedience keeps provision circulating wisely. Obedience establishes rhythm. Rhythm sustains life. Erratic patterns exhaust resources. Lasting provision requires balance. Obedience teaches balance between work, rest, giving, and saving. Obedience positions you under God's protection. Protection limits loss. Lasting provision is guarded by clarity. Clarity flows from obedience. Obedience aligns actions with values. Values preserve integrity. Lasting provision strengthens confidence without pride. Obedience stabilizes ambition. Lasting provision reflects God's faithfulness. Obedience honors God's design. Lasting provision blesses the house. Obedience sustains peace. Provision remains. God's rewards endure. When obedience positions you for lasting provision, your life begins to reflect stability rather than strain, peace rather than pressure, and confidence rather than fear. As resources are managed with wisdom, decisions are guided by clarity, habits are shaped by discipline, and provision grows steadily under God's faithful direction, establishing you not just for a season of blessing, but for a life of sustained supply that supports purpose, preserves peace, and honors the God who rewards obedience with enduring care. When waiting refines character and strengthens faith, it reveals that delay is not punishment but preparation. Waiting is one of God's most precise tools. It shapes the inner life long before it changes external circumstances. In waiting, motives are purified, trust is tested, and faith is strengthened beyond what instant answers could ever produce. God uses waiting to work on who you are becoming, not just on what you are receiving. Waiting exposes the foundation of your faith. When results are delayed, you discover whether your faith is anchored in God's character or in quick outcomes. Faith that survives waiting is faith that has moved beyond convenience. It becomes rooted, mature, and steady. This kind of faith does not collapse under pressure or disappointment because it is not built on timing, but on trust. Character is refined when waiting removes shortcuts. Shortcuts promise speed, but they often bypass growth. God protects you from premature outcomes by slowing the process. Waiting removes the temptation to compromise values for results. Integrity is strengthened when you choose obedience over urgency. God values integrity because integrity sustains blessing. Waiting also develops patience. Patience is not passive tolerance, it is active endurance. It teaches you to remain consistent, hopeful, and faithful even when progress feels slow. Patience stabilizes emotions. Stable emotions support wise decisions. Wise decisions protect future provision. Faith is strengthened in waiting because waiting forces reliance. When control is removed, dependence increases. Dependence deepens relationship with God. Relationship builds trust. Trust strengthens faith. This cycle transforms waiting from frustration into fellowship. Waiting also exposes expectations. Unrealistic expectations often lead to disappointment. Waiting recalibrates expectation to align with God's wisdom. God's wisdom accounts for timing, readiness, and sustainability. When expectations align with wisdom, peace replaces anxiety. Character is shaped in waiting through humility. Waiting reminds you that outcomes are not self-generated. Humility opens the heart to instruction. A teachable heart grows steadily. Growth formed in humility can carry reward without pride. Waiting also removes entitlement. Entitlement demands immediate results. Waiting teaches gratitude for process. Gratitude keeps the heart soft. A soft heart remains sensitive to God's guidance. Faith grows when waiting teaches you to trust God's silence. Silence does not mean absence. Often, God is most active when he appears quiet. Trusting God in silence strengthens spiritual maturity. Mature faith does not panic when answers are delayed. Waiting refines perseverance. Perseverance is the ability to continue without visible reinforcement. God rewards perseverance because it reflects commitment rather than convenience. Perseverance strengthens endurance. Endurance prepares you to sustain blessing. Character is also refined when waiting reveals patterns of reaction. Waiting shows how you respond to uncertainty. Do you become anxious, resentful, or impatient? Or do you remain steady and trusting? God uses waiting to replace unhealthy reactions with faith-filled responses. Waiting strengthens faith by deepening hope. Hope anchored in God does not diminish with time. It grows quieter but stronger. Quiet hope is resilient. Resilient hope sustains peace. Waiting also teaches discernment. Discernment develops when you learn to listen rather than rush. Rushing clouds judgment. Waiting clarifies it. Clarity protects future decisions. Character grows when waiting refines discipline. Discipline keeps you faithful when enthusiasm fades. God values discipline because it produces consistency. Consistency builds trustworthiness. Waiting removes dependency on external validation. When no one applauds your patience, you learn to rely on God's approval. God's approval stabilizes identity. Stable identity strengthens faith. Faith is strengthened when waiting reveals God's faithfulness in small ways. While you wait for the big answer, God often provides daily grace. Recognizing daily grace builds confidence in God's care. Waiting also aligns you with God's timing. God's timing protects you from receiving what you are not yet ready to steward. Readiness includes emotional, spiritual, and practical maturity. Waiting develops readiness. Character is refined when waiting stretches trust. Stretching is uncomfortable, but it increases capacity. Increased capacity allows you to handle more without breaking. God values capacity because it sustains growth. Waiting teaches you to separate obedience from outcome. You learn to obey because God is worthy, not because reward is immediate. This purity of obedience honors God deeply. Faith strengthens when waiting removes fear of missing out. Fear pressures people to act prematurely. Waiting teaches that what is meant for you will not bypass you. Trust replaces fear. Waiting also builds spiritual depth. Depth comes from time spent in God's presence. Waiting invites prayer, reflection, and listening. Depth sustains faith during storms. Character grows when waiting removes comparison. Comparison magnifies impatience. Waiting teaches you to focus on your own journey. Focus preserves peace. Waiting refines vision. Vision becomes clearer when distractions are removed. Clear vision guides future decisions. Decisions guided by vision are stable. Faith is strengthened when waiting reveals that God is more interested in formation than speed. Speed impresses people. Formation sustains purpose. Waiting also cultivates resilience. Resilience allows you to recover from disappointment without losing faith. God values resilience because life requires endurance. Character is refined when waiting teaches contentment. Contentment does not eliminate desire, it stabilizes it. Stable desire prevents reckless pursuit. Waiting strengthens faith by proving God's promises are not time-sensitive. God's promises are eternal. Waiting does not weaken them. Waiting also exposes misplaced trust. If peace disappears when progress slows, trust may be misplaced. Waiting realigns trust with God rather than outcomes. Character grows when waiting produces consistency in prayer. Consistent prayer deepens relationship. Relationship strengthens faith. Waiting teaches surrender. Surrender removes tension. Tension clouds judgment. Clarity returns when surrender is embraced. Faith is strengthened when waiting removes self-reliance. Self-reliance limits growth. Dependence on God expands it. Waiting refines motives. Motives purified by waiting align with God's heart. Alignment invites blessing. Character is strengthened when waiting teaches restraint. Restraint protects future provision. Waiting also sharpens obedience. You obey even when nothing seems to change. God honors this obedience. Faith grows when waiting proves that God's delays are purposeful. Purpose gives meaning to waiting. Waiting removes anxiety-driven urgency. Calm replaces panic. Calm supports clarity. Character is refined when waiting teaches gratitude for process. Process builds strength. Waiting strengthens faith by confirming that God is faithful beyond timelines. Waiting also prepares you for responsibility. Responsibility requires maturity. Waiting produces maturity. Character grows when waiting teaches endurance without bitterness. Bitterness poisons faith. God refines the heart to prevent it. Waiting strengthens faith by deepening trust in God's sovereignty. Sovereignty assures you that nothing is out of control. Waiting also restores balance. Balance prevents burnout. Character is refined when waiting removes unrealistic expectations. Realistic faith is stable. Waiting strengthens faith by proving that God's work in you matters as much as his work for you. Waiting also teaches you to rest. Rest restores strength. Character grows when waiting produces humility. Humility preserves blessing. Waiting strengthens faith by anchoring hope in God rather than in timing. Waiting teaches you that growth happens even when nothing appears to be happening. Waiting refines character so that when reward comes, it does not destroy peace. Waiting strengthens faith so that when doors open, fear does not dominate. Waiting prepares the heart to receive without pride. Waiting forms endurance that carries blessing forward. Waiting establishes depth that sustains faith beyond the moment. When waiting refines character and strengthens faith, the delay becomes meaningful, the process becomes purposeful, and the heart becomes anchored, steady, and mature, shaped by trust rather than urgency, strengthened by dependence rather than control, and prepared to receive God's reward with humility, peace, and unwavering confidence in his perfect wisdom and unfailing faithfulness. When God's rewards are secure, enduring, and purposeful, they reflect his nature rather than human systems of reward. God does not reward impulsively, emotionally, or temporarily. What he gives is established, intentional, and lasting. His rewards are not designed to impress for a moment, but to sustain for a lifetime. Understanding this truth changes how you wait, how you obey, and how you measure success. Secure rewards are rooted in God's faithfulness, not in fluctuating circumstances. What God establishes cannot be easily shaken. Human rewards are often fragile, dependent on approval, performance, or conditions. God's rewards are anchored in covenant. Covenant does not shift with seasons. It remains firm even when circumstances change. This security allows you to rest rather than strive. Enduring rewards are built over time. They are not rushed into existence. God allows process because endurance is required to sustain what lasts. Anything that comes quickly without depth often fades just as fast. God values longevity over immediacy. His rewards endure because they are supported by character, wisdom, and maturity developed through obedience. Purposeful rewards align with God's intention for your life. God does not reward randomly. Every blessing carries assignment. Every increase has direction. Purpose ensures that reward does not become distraction. When reward aligns with purpose, it enhances calling rather than competing with it. God's rewards are secure because they are not dependent on constant effort to maintain them. What God establishes, He also sustains. This does not remove responsibility, but it removes anxiety. You steward from peace, not from fear of loss. Peace protects clarity. Clarity strengthens stewardship. Enduring rewards bring stability. Stability is often overlooked because it lacks excitement, but it is one of God's greatest gifts. Stability allows growth without chaos. It allows joy without guilt. It allows progress without pressure. God rewards faithfulness with stability because stability preserves peace. Purposeful rewards strengthen identity rather than distort it. When rewards come from God, they do not redefine your worth. Your identity remains anchored in who God says you are, not in what you have received. This protects you from pride and insecurity. Both pride and insecurity undermine lasting blessing. God's rewards are secure because they are not easily stolen. What is given by God is guarded by Him. This does not mean challenges disappear, but it means that what God establishes cannot be undone by opposition alone. Security in God's reward system produces confidence rather than fear. Enduring rewards are marked by consistency. They may grow gradually, but they remain dependable. God values consistent progress over dramatic fluctuation. Consistency builds trust. Trust attracts responsibility. Responsibility invites greater influence. Purposeful rewards also come with wisdom. God does not separate reward from understanding. Understanding helps you manage what you receive. Management ensures longevity. Longevity reflects God's heart for generational impact rather than momentary success. God's rewards are secure because they are not rooted in comparison. Comparison destabilizes joy. God's rewards are personal, tailored to your journey, your capacity, and your calling. When you understand this, envy loses power and gratitude grows. Enduring rewards produce peace rather than pressure. Pressure often accompanies rewards that arrive before readiness. God's timing ensures readiness precedes reward. Readiness includes emotional stability, spiritual maturity, and disciplined habits. These elements protect peace. Purposeful rewards contribute to growth beyond yourself. God often rewards in ways that bless others through you. This outward flow prevents stagnation. Stagnation weakens blessing. Circulation strengthens it. God's rewards are secure because they are aligned with obedience. Obedience keeps you within God's covering. Covering protects reward. When reward is protected, fear diminishes. Enduring rewards are not threatened by seasons of quiet. Even when progress appears slow, what God has established remains intact. Silence does not signal loss. God's work often continues quietly. Purposeful rewards deepen trust. When you experience God's faithfulness, trust increases. Increased trust strengthens obedience. Obedience sustains blessing. God's rewards are secure because they are not driven by human approval. Human approval fluctuates. God's approval is constant. When reward is anchored in God's approval, it remains stable regardless of opinion. Enduring rewards are often subtle at first. They may appear as peace, clarity, consistency, or opportunity rather than immediate abundance. These subtle rewards create foundations that support future growth. Purposeful rewards protect you from excess. Excess without purpose creates imbalance. God's rewards are measured. Measure preserves balance. Balance sustains health. God's rewards are secure because they are connected to His promises. God honors His word. What He promises, He fulfills. Fulfillment may unfold over time, but it remains certain. Enduring rewards also include wisdom gained through experience. Wisdom becomes an asset that cannot be lost. God rewards faithfulness with wisdom because wisdom multiplies everything it touches. Purposeful rewards align with legacy. God thinks in generations. His rewards are designed to impact beyond your lifetime. This perspective removes urgency and strengthens patience. God's rewards are secure because they do not rely on constant validation. Validation seeking drains energy. Security restores it. Enduring rewards stabilize emotions. Emotional stability improves judgment. Improved judgment protects blessing. Purposeful rewards encourage humility. Humility keeps the heart open. An open heart remains teachable. God's rewards are secure because they are accompanied by grace. Grace empowers you to carry what you receive. Without grace, reward becomes heavy. With grace, it becomes manageable. Enduring rewards bring satisfaction that does not fade quickly. Satisfaction rooted in God remains even when circumstances fluctuate. Purposeful rewards reinforce obedience. When obedience produces peace and stability, obedience becomes joyful rather than burdensome. God's rewards are secure because they are not rushed. Rushed rewards often lack structure. God builds structure first. Enduring rewards are not threatened by failure. God redeems mistakes. Redemption preserves reward. Purposeful rewards strengthen faith. Faith grows when God proves faithful. God's rewards are secure because they are protected by his sovereignty. Sovereignty ensures nothing is wasted. Enduring rewards mature desire. Desire becomes refined. Refined desire leads to wise pursuit. Purposeful rewards guard peace. Peace sustains joy. God's rewards are secure because they are aligned with his will. Alignment protects longevity. Enduring rewards also build resilience. Resilience allows you to withstand change. Purposeful rewards anchor hope. Hope strengthens endurance. God's rewards are secure because they reflect his character, faithful, steady, intentional. Enduring rewards outlast seasons. Purposeful rewards outgrow circumstances. God's rewards do not expire with time. They deepen with stewardship. They strengthen with obedience. They remain with faithfulness. God's rewards are secure because they are not fragile. They are enduring because they are built on truth. They are purposeful because they are designed by God. When God rewards, he establishes rather than excites, sustains rather than shocks, and secures rather than unsettles, releasing blessings that endure through seasons, serve purpose beyond self, strengthen peace instead of pressure, mature faith instead of inflating pride, and remain firmly rooted in his faithfulness, ensuring that what he gives is not easily lost, quickly forgotten, or lightly carried, but held with wisdom, gratitude, stability, and quiet confidence in the God whose rewards last and whose purposes never fail. Beloved, as we come to the close of this time of prayer and reflection, allow your heart to rest in the assurance that God's faithfulness is working quietly on your behalf. Nothing you have trusted him with has been overlooked, and nothing you have waited for has been wasted. Carry this peace with you as you move through your day. You are not striving for reward, you are positioned for it. God's promises unfold with precision, not pressure. If this message has strengthened your faith, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel for daily prayer and encouragement. Staying connected helps keep your spirit aligned and your confidence rooted in truth. Seal this prayer by writing Amen in the comments as a declaration that God is rewarding your faithfulness. Also comment one thing you are believing God for today, because expectation releases faith. Remember that God's rewards are not rushed and they are not fragile. What he establishes in your life is meant to endure and bring peace, not strain. Move forward without fear of missing out. What is meant for you will not pass you by. God's timing protects your peace and secures your future. Let patience continue its work in you. What God is building through obedience and trust will last far beyond this season. Allow gratitude to remain in your heart. Gratitude keeps your perspective balanced and your faith steady. Trust that even when progress feels quiet, God is still active. His work is often most powerful when it is unseen. Go forward with calm confidence, knowing that your faithfulness is being honored, your reward is unfolding, and your life is firmly held in the hands of a faithful God who keeps his promises.